Europe and in the SADC region. Next slide, please. Thanks. So since 2 years ago, the membership of SDSN has grown 215%. We currently have 1,400 member institutions. Globally, it's also mostly universities, about 75%. As Caroline was saying, the growth, so again, 153 of those 1,400 are in the US, which is a phenomenal growth. And we have 15 new networks that have been launched in the last 2 years. We also have 27 networks in the pipeline at different levels of discussion. Next line, Caroline, please. Thank you. So all of our work has been disrupted by the pandemic, but the truth is that our networks have really stepped up and there's been a massive increase in activities. Our networks have been providing scientific advice to their governments on how to address the pandemic. They've developed solutions and they have created very innovative partnerships to address some of the most pressing challenges. They've done all of that always with this double focus on the immediate needs, but also how do we address the current needs in a way that paves the way for the achievement of the SDGs. So always having this long-term focus in mind. And they've had massive reach. We've had events with several thousand of participants. And of course, we were having events in, for example, South Africa that were attended by colleagues in Brazil and in Australia for the first time without having to travel. I wanted to highlight just 2 initiatives from our networks that address the pandemic that are quite different, but precisely because of that. So our Amazon SDSN was a part of an alliance of indigenous people to fight the coronavirus. This alliance reached over 5,000 different communities in the Amazon, providing strategies to prevent contagion, services of mental health, but then at one point even transportation, logistic plans for transportation to hospitals. The other initiative is El Día Después, so the day after. This was launched by the Spanish SDSN that I think it was launched exactly a week after the first confinement in March, put together a platform to bring the private sector, academics, and state officials and actually decision makers from different levels of government to think about how do we address this crisis in a way that, again, that makes sure that the day after will be what we want it to be. Some of the biggest companies of Spain have been a part of this initiative. We have mayors from several cities of very different political parties. Several ministers have joined at different moments of the work. And key initiatives are, for example, the drafting of the policy that then led to the basic income, the universal basic income being approved in Spain about a month or 2 months or so after the first lockdown. Next slide, please, Caroline. So what other global highlights can we make that are unrelated to the pandemic? First of all, for the first time, we organized a university's president meeting where we had over 100 university presidents from around the world meeting with the Secretary General of the UN, as well as other senior officials from the UN. This is an initiative that we're going to continue. We will be pursuing it at the regional level. And our objective is to bring universities closer to the UN. We also continued with our Global Solutions Forum. We received 16 proposals from 16 different networks and selected 8. We did our 24-hour webinar where networks passed the baton from one to the other, organizing sessions on different topics. So the SDSN USA had a full hour session. And then we launched many new local indices at the city level, at the regional level. More and more of our networks are doing this exercise to map the performance of their cities vis-a-vis the SDGs, and then work with cities to address some of the challenges, including by partnering cities that share challenges or partnering them with cities that have surmounted those challenges. We've recently launched the Pathfinder Lancet Commission that is going to help us map cases from all of our members that can prove an impact, a positive impact, we hope, in human health of decarbonization actions. We hope that this is going to help us build the narrative of why it's so important to decarbonize around health improvements that we're also concerned about. And then we've launched many new partnerships. At the governance level, last year we launched and now has been running for a full year, the Network Strategy Council with chairs, again, from around the world that has been advising our program, helping us think through what new initiatives we need to do, what things we need to do differently or more of. It has proven extremely useful, especially since the pandemic. We launched a COVID support program with our Global South networks that needed assistance. So we provided both software and hardware to our network managers. And then we've started changing the way we communicate our work. So we've launched the Member Mobilized Mondays, but we're also working with the SDG Academy to do spotlight videos on what our members are doing. Next slide, please. Last year, we also launched our Accelerating Education for the SDGs guide. This is a very practical guide addressed to universities to think about how to streamline the education for the SDGs. It has many tools, it has templates, it has case studies, ideas on how to surmount some of the classic barriers that our members express to be having in this field, as well as an in-depth analysis on how universities can really transform themselves, not only to be able to educate for the SDGs, but also to lead on this agenda. We opened a call for case studies and we received 160 case studies from around the world. We selected 50 that are showcased in a website. We're going to be opening a second call this year, and we're also going to set up a working group on this question of how universities can transform themselves. It's not easy because, of course, we want the universities to continue to provide the services and at the quality that they do, while still transforming and shaking things up. Next slide, please. So these are some of our priorities for 2021. We will continue to expand the network. We will continue to think through how we can better communicate the work that all of you are doing and our networks are doing. We will continue to increase the kind of services that we provide to universities. As I was saying, we will launch a new call for case studies, and we're going to be working with universities around these cases. And then we're also going to be looking into new global and regional initiatives that can be of interest to our networks. Next slide. I think just to conclude, we continue to publish our annual Networks in Action report. It's in our website. We've actually created this year an online version, so feel free to check it out with this year a special chapter on the role of networks in addressing the pandemic. I'm going to go back to Caroline Oggs now. Caroline, over to you. Thank you very much.